Well, good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to get together with you like we do most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central. Our goal is to spend a few minutes together talking about some grant resources that are available to help entrepreneurs start and grow a business. So we're going to start with the Chapman Loan Program. So what should be shared, my screen to yours, is on chapmanloanprogram.org. When we applied for the grant and received the grant, which I'll describe the background and all that it does, but one of the requirements for the model of setting up fundable businesses was to have an easy to navigate resource page. And so here it is. So chapmanloanprogram.org is the resource page. So let me give you just a quick rundown of what's on the resource page, and then we'll talk about the grant, the specifics, how it works. And then regardless if you're an entrepreneur looking for funding to start or grow a business, we'll make sure this is relevant to you and worth your time over the next few minutes. Alternatively, if you are either currently or considering becoming one of our financial literacy educators, one of our distribution partners, we'll talk to that as well. But on chapmanloanprogram.org, there are some resources at the bottom of the page. And so it says about us and resources. I suspect, because I'm sharing my screen with you, if you're on a phone or an iPad, the formatting might look a little bit different. But it starts by giving the introduction of us, our information, and then grant resources. So let me go ahead and talk about us and how the grant came about first. So our 501c3 Business Credit Literacy Initiative started in 2016. And the reason that we formed the nonprofit, which we didn't plan to do, it wasn't planned. But what happened is a number of us, myself included, we were teachers. I taught at a high school, Aubrey, A-U-B-R-E-Y, Aubrey, Texas, just outside of Dallas. My full-time high school teacher, I taught accounting 1, accounting 2, economics, business information management, and computer programming, if I recall correctly. So small school, but kind of innovative in the sense that we taught a lot of business curriculum because that was, we felt important. So as we're teaching these concepts that again, I think it's innovative to be taught at a high school level, we started getting calls and emails from parents saying, what are you teaching my kids? Because, we're teaching high school sophomores, juniors, and seniors these financial literacy topics that's going to tie into our discussion today. But what we found is there was a demand in the adult community. So all of a sudden we started to get asked to go teach this curriculum at churches, at chambers. There was an apartment complex that backed up right against the back of the school. They'd have me come out and teach a class one Saturday every 3 months. So the bottom line is financial literacy, while it's being taught to the youth in high schools, there's a lot of adults that don't know how finance works and specifically how to get funding. Because the bottom line is there's a formula to get funding. And we were teaching the high school kids, and the adults said, hey, teach us too. So that's why we started the nonprofit. We're a member of the Money Smart initiative that was co-founded by the SBA and FDIC, and we work with about 40 different lenders who share a common belief and emphasis on helping small business owners get funding. And we work with a lot of distribution partners like many of you. So that's the short background of how this came about, is that we were teaching your kids these topics, and a lot of the adults said, hey, we need to be taught too. Well, we couldn't have all the adults come in and sit in classes, accounting 101 at 10 o'clock in the morning on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So we had to have some way to reach out to the community. Now this is great, skipping down to this bottom, because if you have a passion for teaching and helping people, because again, what do you and I know? You and I know exactly the formula for funding, and we'll go through it if anyone doesn't know it, but that's what you and I know. And the challenge or the opportunity is most people don't know what you and I know. They want and maybe need funding to start or grow a business, but they don't qualify and they don't know why, they don't know how. But that's exactly what you and I know. So if you would like to get paid to go out and teach other people how to become fundable with no risk, 100% certainty through the grant, you would do that down here. Other resources, the link to participate as a client, to get financing offers, to join the Zoom, which we're on now. Here we have the full educational curriculum. So if you wanted to be one of our financial literacy educators and teach in person or online, this is the material. It's called the 10 mistakes of why small businesses don't get funded. And then we turn it around and talk about how the grant works, which I'll describe briefly. But this is important because this is the full version, where what I'll be going through today is kind of the Cliff Notes version, funding success stories, and again, how to get set up to be a distribution partner. So enough of that. So let's go ahead and talk about the grant. So we applied for the grant and it had a few considerations. The first of which is every participant in the grant, and there's no minimum credit score, there's no minimum time in business, so that it's not like filtered out the way the business loans are, that anyone that participates in the grant, they get an initial $2,500 allocation up front. And then what we do is we put together a fundable business. And we don't want that to be generic or unclear. So let's go through exactly what that means. So that's the formula for funding right here. So even if you didn't want to take advantage of the grant, you could follow this formula on your own and you would qualify, your business would qualify for funding. Absolutely. But let's go through what we call the formula for funding. The first thing that a fundable business needs to have, so this is the starting point. So these bullets are actually in an important order, by the way. They're not random. So this, you could take this bullet out and put number 1 if you wanted. So we're in order. The first thing that we provide through the grant, and the first thing that any small business owner should want if they want a fundable business, is they have to start with their address. And I know that maybe sounds silly and maybe that sounds unnecessary, but frankly, this isn't an opinion contest. It doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter what I think. What matters is what it takes to be fundable. We need to have a true, unique commercial, otherwise known as a business address, not post office box, not residential, not a shared address. Your address needs to be specific. So the suite number that you have must be yours and no one else's. That's what we must have to have a fundable business. And again, I'm giving you the high level. If you want to dig in, you can go down here and listen to the full version. But that's the first thing. And the reason that it's first, because a lot of times we'll hear from clients, they'll say, well, I already filed with the Secretary of State, or I already have my EIN. And we're like, well, great. Did you start with a good business address? No. Well, now it's all fucked up, right? Because now you got to go clean everything up because everything is wrong. The address is wrong. And what happens is when these addresses are wrong, then it feeds into Dun & Bradstreet and Experian Business and Equifax Business. We'll get into those here when we get to the 4th bullet. So we really need to start with a good, unique commercial address. And through the grant, we provide that for free. And Big Money Mike is on this morning. And he wanted clarification. Is this free? Yes, it is free, Big Money Mike. Big Money Mike says he wants to teach. And Big Money Mike, if you want to teach, you'll come to chapmanloanprogram.org and click here to get set up. All right. Thank you, Big Money Mike. All right. So the first thing that we need to have a fundable business, regardless if you want to participate in this grant or not, it doesn't matter. This is not some pitch. This is Financial Literacy 101. We taught 16, 17, and 18-year-olds this. We put business plans together. We were highlighted in the national press from this innovative entrepreneurial program that we did for your children. Let's make sure that you know the same thing that we were teaching your children. So we start with an address, right? And that's how much? Big money, Mike? It's free. Free. Through the grant. Second thing we need to do is file with the Secretary of State, because we need to be in good standing. Normally, you would have to pay the Secretary of State a fee to form a new business. In this case, it is how much big money, Mike? It is free. Third thing, once we have the address and we're filed with the Secretary of State, then the third thing we need to do is get our EIN from the IRS, and that's free and easy. Then we can go open our business bank account. Through the grant, we do that for free. Big money, Mike. So once we have these 3 bullets, now we have the foundation of a business. Are we ready for funding? Absolutely not. But if we don't have these 3, do not pass, do not proceed to go, or whatever that expression is in Monopoly. We need to stop where we're at and fix these 3 bullets, because if these 3 bullets aren't in good standing, nothing else really matters. Through the grant, as you can see, and Big Money Mike asked, free, free, free. Now, you might say, hey, I already have some of these things, or I know clients that already have some of these things, and that's fine. So we've loosened the requirements. When we originally wrote up the grant application, it was to provide this entire scope. But if you or someone else has some of these elements, that's fine, but we're clear on what's needed. Now we need to get the business fundable, and that's really the next 2 bullets. Next 2 bullets. So what does that mean? Because now we have the foundation of a credible business. Now we need to get the business fundable. So how do we do that? Well, just like we were teaching those children, when you turn 18, you don't have established, when you turn 18 years old as an adult, you don't have established credit. So we need to start adding credit. So we show that we're responsible borrowers, that will pay as promised. We worked with a local credit union. We would literally march the students over and have them open an account, 2 accounts, a secured loan and a secured credit card the day or as soon as we could after they turned 18 to start building personal credit. Well, here we're not talking about those children or the youth. We're talking about your business. What we want to do is start building business credit. However, there's an extra step we need to do with a business that we don't have to worry about as individuals. So there's actually 2 subpoints to this. The first thing we're going to do is build out the business credit profile, like with Dun & Bradstreet, Experian Business. Make sure that our information is complete and accurate, industry code, phone numbers, all of that. Then we're going to turn around and add primary trade lines. Primary trade lines added under the EIN. So there's really 2 points, 2 subpoints under this. Why do we need to do that? To show lenders that we've had responsible access to credit. You might say, oh my goodness, how long is it going to take? This whole process is set up to be a 30 to 60 day process, but you're right, this is the longest portion of that. Now, with that, are we ready to go to funding? No, there's one more bullet we need to cover before we go to funding. We need to make sure that we have financials for the business. So often, adults, the children would listen, the teens would listen and get it, but so often adults are like combative. Well, no, this is a new business. I don't have financials. That doesn't apply to me. That's an entire bullshit response. It's one of financial illiteracy. So if someone tells you that, put your arm around them and say, listen, we got to get you on the same page. We need to have financials for your business, even though it's a new business. The most important financial is what? The balance sheet. And so what we do is we help, through the grant, create a balance sheet for each business. Well, what's on a balance sheet? Just like we taught those 16, 17, 18-year-olds, a balance sheet shows the assets and liabilities of the business. So often entrepreneurs will say, well, this isn't going to work. I don't have any assets. Well, you're right. That does look pretty shitty if you have a business and you want to go borrow money and you have no assets. Well, that's where the grant comes in. The grant provides QUICKCASH. QUICKCASH provides $10,000 of assets that we go post on the balance sheet. So now we have collateral, and then we liquidate those receivables and turn that into cash. Now, we've had several people that asked, well, they wanted to do QUICKCASH alone without the rest. And so we announced yesterday that we did launch QUICKCASH as a standalone. So when you see this over here on QUICKCASH, it's the same as this bullet. It's just on a standalone basis, just so you know, not to be confused. So the great news is now we know the formula for funding. This is it. We need a good address. We need to be in good standing with Secretary of State. We need to have our EIN with our bank account. We need to have a good business credit profile, good business credit scores. The business credit scores go from 0, I guess, to 100. You need to have at least an 80 PAYDEX score, at least an 80 Experian IntelliScore will help you with that. Not a problem. We'll accomplish that by adding primary trade lines. Not a problem. Legal and ethical. And then we need to make sure we have financials, a good financial, specifically a good balance sheet that has collateral on it, and we provide that. So this is the formula for funding. This is what it takes to have a fundable business. So if you run into someone and they say, well, I need funding, but I can't get approved. Somewhere they're failing these 5 bullets. They're not meeting the criteria of being fundable, because if you have this, your business is fundable. That's what we do through the grant, through the Startup Business Funding Package. Again, as of yesterday, we relaxed it a bit. So if someone has some of these elements, they don't want to start over, then that's fine. We'll still work with them. So the bottom bullet here is where we apply for funding. So once we have a fundable business, which is clearly identified here, and we also talk about it in the proposal, which you can click here. We also cover it in the press release here. So just over and over, we're reiterating, what does it take to be fundable for business? So there's no confusion about it. Once we have met these criteria, now we're ready to go to funding. There are different types of funding available, of course. There's SBA and non-SBA, there's term loans, there's lines of credit, there's all kinds of different funding. One unique type is the Chapman Fund, which maybe you've heard of, maybe you haven't. The Chapman Fund has positive and negative attributes, like most things in life. From a positive perspective, what's great about the Chapman Fund is we don't have to go meet bank underwriting criteria. It's through a taxing authority. So they have this bucket of money to provide to businesses to start and grow. So that's good. That's very good, actually. What's the bad? And people get mad at me. People will curse at me. People will hang up on me. Here's the problem. The Chapman Fund will only go up to $250,000 per business. That is the hard cap. So I know that may sound unfair, but there's 2 ways to get around it. We could either go through this process multiple times, or we could use the Chapman Fund as just the first tranche, the first round, and then apply for other funding afterwards. So it's okay. So it's very common to use the Chapman Fund for a first tranche and then go after a much larger amount afterwards. It's okay to stack. So with that being said, our 501c3 nonprofit can help your business get positioned for funding with no risk. To see if you qualify to participate, it's real simple. There's a 2-step process. If I could get it to highlight here, you can see it. 2-step process. Step 1 is they want you, and it's on the honor system, granted, so they don't confirm it, but to read the proposal by clicking here and then watching this training video, which is in the form of a press release. Secondly, then you click here to enroll, and you can click on that. It'll pop up a form stack and just initial off. It's real simple. So with that, let's turn it over to you. If you can ask any questions, comments, concerns, you'll post those into the Q&A box. It's like a chat box, a Zoom, question and answer. So you'll type that in, and then I will read that back and answer it or comment on it. All right, so Felicia has a great question. So Felicia's digging into, once we have a fundable business, obviously, then we want to go to funding. That's kind of the purpose of the process. She's right that it's about a 30 to 60 day process to go through this. Now, if you already have some of these pieces in place, granted, it could go quicker, but going from scratch, it's normally a 30 to 60 day process. When we go to funding, we can go to any type of funding. We really need to identify how much money you want and what you're going to use it for to figure out the right place to go. So it's called uses of funds. And so each lender, each extender of credit, each funding source would have their own application. We're not the lender, right? We don't pretend to be a bank. We're not. And at that point, then we can go to funding. The underwriting from each lender will vary, but what we know again is we need to have a fundable business. And you and I are, I think, crystal clear now. What is the formula for funding? What is the formula to have a fundable business? It's this. It's this. Good address, good standing Secretary of State, EIN, business bank account, good business credit profile, strong financials with collateral on your balance sheet. All right, so who else has questions, comments, concerns? So as far as action steps, it's real simple. If you want to participate, you come down here, and for some reason I can't highlight that, but you see step 1 and step 2. So go to Chapman Loan Program, 2 steps, still don't know why that won't highlight, but step 1 and step 2, crazy simple. If you say, oh, I'd like to be an educator, I'd like to teach, I'd like to get paid to help others, great. Scroll down, and as we discussed earlier on, it's that bottom. And so you click on there, it'll pop up a form stack, a different form stack. You'll just initial off on it. We call it the Opportunity Fund, and you'll be good to go. All right, so who else has questions, comments, concerns? It's crazy simple. All right, we got several Erics on this morning, but one of, I think, 5 different Erics is asking about teaching. So you don't have to teach the curriculum, but it's a great way to help people understand, what is the formula for funding, what do you need to have, and then on average, 85 to 87% of the people that we teach will turn around and enroll in the grant, which is great. If you teach them the curriculum, then you're paid as an educator, which happens down here. You're paid it's not get rich quick, nothing like that, but you get paid $1,250 for each person that you teach that enrolls. And so, class size can vary. I've taught classes that were 70 plus people. I've taught classes that were 3 people. It'll vary, right? It'll vary. But on average, let's just round it off and say 8 out of 10 people that you teach will enroll. So let's say that you teach a group of 10, just for easy number, 8 or 9 of those, probably 9, but we'll just go with 8 will enroll. You make 1,250 times 8. So you make around $10,000 for teaching each 1 hour workshop on average. So it's not get rich quick, not going to replace your full-time income. But many of you are just following a track of helping 1 client a day, 30 a month on average, enroll. And so what does that do? That's helping 30 entrepreneurs, which is admirable in itself. But from your perspective, it would put about $30,000 extra per month in your pocket. And so I realize that's not much. I realize that you're probably worth a lot more than that and all those things. But for a side gig, not bad. You could teach online or in person, or you wouldn't have to teach at all. We'll provide you the tools and resources, and we'll provide them in an editable format. So you go out as a private label. But it's fun. It's great to help people. And the workshops are not difficult because we work with hosts, churches, chambers, key influencers. They'll provide the audience. You just teach the curriculum. And if you're wondering, well, what's the curriculum? It's right here. So again, my goal is not to recruit you to go teach, but we do need to do more community outreach. And we accomplish that through our distribution partners. But you're welcome to do that or not. You have our phone number, you have our email address. What other questions do any of you have that I can help with? Anthony's asking about QUICKCASH. So QUICKCASH is on guaranteedfunding.org. QUICKCASH, you'll see that there's a link. And so if you're doing the Chapman loan program, QUICKCASH is included. But if all you're wanting is just the $10,000 transfer, and you don't either want or need the rest of a fundable business, which is fine, then you can come right over here and you're able to participate. It's a two-step process, also very simple. Thank you for asking that, Anthony. All right, Big Money Mike, you got your hand up. If you want to go ahead and type that question, I'll take care of that. Katia, you got your hand up. If you want to type your question, I'll help you. We get together most weekday mornings. Some weekdays travel. We're still doing workshops ourselves. There's several pockets of the country where we don't have educators yet, so we're being asked to fill in. So contact us if you would like. Let us know where you're at, and call us or email us. We can let you know if we have a need for someone in your area, and we can even help you set up those workshops and start teaching. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Katia asked about addresses. And so, as I mentioned, as of yesterday, they relaxed the standards. It used to be that the grant required us to take people all the way through all of the steps. But we had I don't think that's an exaggeration. We had so many people, we had numerous people that said, hey, I have some of this. I already have my EIN. I don't want a new EIN. Or I already formed my entity. I don't want a new entity. And we kind of gave in. So fine. If you already have your own entity, your own EIN, then that's fine. It's still the same two-step process. Review the proposal, watch the press release, training video, and then step 2, engage. So the process is right here. There's no other steps. 2 steps. But you can always come back, join us tomorrow if you want to hear the message again. It'll be the same message. You can call us, you can email us, but probably most important, you'll want to go to chapmanloanprogram.org. Big Money Mike asked about resources. So yes, if you become one of our distribution partners, you'd be set up private label, so that way you can go out under your brand. We have a number of you that are CPAs. We have a number of you that are attorneys. Many of you are realtors. Many of you are insurance agents, and you don't have to be any of those. But the point is that you would want to go out under your own branding. So we provide you the editable material. So we'll provide you an editable press release, and an editable proposal, an editable client agreement. So if you're a distribution partner, you're able to control the branding, and people love that. But yes, the video as well. And we have numerous videos. All right, well, thanks everyone. You have a great day. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.